Commander Alina Blackwood had seen her share of strange phenomena during her 15 years patrolling Europa's ice fields, but nothing prepared her for what she discovered in the heart of the megastorm. The massive maelstrom of ice and wind that locals called the Eternal Tempest had been acting strange for days, its usual patterns disrupted by something the scientists couldn't explain. Through the howling wind and sheets of crystalline ice, Alina's enhanced vision picked up an anomaly. A flash of purple light, too structured to be natural, too alien to be human. She adjusted her suit's thermal regulators and pressed forward, fighting against winds that could strip the flesh from unprotected bone. The light pulsed again, weaker this time. Alina's heads-up display registered a mass of energy signatures she'd never seen before, all emanating from what appeared to be a crash site. As she approached, the storm seemed to part before her, revealing a sight that made her breath catch in her throat. A vessel of impossible design lay broken in the ice, its surface covered in what looked like living crystal. But it was the figure half buried in the snow that drew Alina's immediate attention. A tall, elegant being with iridescent skin that shifted colors like the aurora borealis. The alien was clearly wounded, purple blood crystallizing in the extreme cold. Alina's training kicked in. "This is Commander Blackwood. I need immediate medical evacuation at my coordinates." She knelt beside the alien, nodding the ceremonial armor and the strange symbols that seemed to float just beneath its skin. "Stay with me," she muttered, deploying her emergency shelter around them both. The alien's eyes snapped open, 3 of them arranged in a triangle pattern, each one containing swirling galaxies of deep violet. "Human," it spoke, its voice carrying both power and pain. "You must listen carefully." "Save your strength," Alina replied, activating her medical scanners. "Help is coming." "No," the alien gripped her arm with surprising strength. "I am Zyra, Royal Guard of the Vesperan Dominion. What you have stumbled upon is larger than you can imagine. They are coming. They must not find what I protect." Alina's scanners picked up multiple approaching signatures. "Who's coming?" "The Harvesters," Zyra whispered, her color fading. "They seek our biological technology, our very essence. I cannot let them." She tried to rise but collapsed. Alina made a quick decision. Standard protocol demanded she wait for backup, but something in Zyra's warning rang true. She'd seen too many strange things on Europa to ignore her instincts. "Can you move?" "The cold, it interferes with our natural healing." Alina activated her suit's experimental fusion core, channeling excess heat into her external systems. "Then we do this the hard way." She lifted Zyra, surprised by how light the alien was despite her tall frame. "My outpost is 3 kilometers south. We'll talk more once you're stable." As if in response to her decision, the storm intensified. Through the maelstrom, Alina caught glimpses of shadows moving with purpose, shapes that belonged to no Earth vessel she knew. Her suit's combat systems came online, identifying multiple threats converging on their position. "They track by heat signature," Zyra managed to say. "Your suit's energy. They will find us." Alina smiled grimly. "Then we'll give them something to chase." She activated her suit's experimental stealth systems, a project she'd been testing for the Europa Defense Force. "Hold tight, Your Highness. This is going to get interesting." As they moved through the storm, Alina's mind raced with questions. Why were the Vesperans here? What technology could be worth this much trouble? But one thing was clear. She had just been thrust into the middle of a conflict that would change humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. Behind them, unknown vessels descended through the storm, their weapons charging. Ahead lay uncertainty and danger. But Commander Alina Blackwood had never been one to back down from a fight, especially not one with stakes this high. As Zyra's breathing steadied against her shoulder, Alina made a silent vow. Whatever was coming, whatever secrets lay buried in Europa's ice, she would face it head-on. The storm raged on, and somewhere in its depths, the hunters began their pursuit. Through the howling winds of Europa's eternal storm, Commander Alina Blackwood carried her alien charge toward the research outpost. Each step was a battle against both the elements and time itself. The Vesperan warrior, Zyra, drifted in and out of consciousness, her iridescent skin fluctuating between deep purple and an alarming gray. The pursuing vessels had multiplied. Elena's tactical display now showed 7 distinct signatures, their energy readings unlike anything in Earth's database. They moved in a precise formation, herding them away from the outpost's coordinates. These weren't mindless hunters. They were trained military operators. "Your cloak," Zyra whispered, her 3 eyes focusing briefly. "It won't hold." Elena knew she was right. The experimental stealth system was already showing signs of strain, micro-fractures appearing in its quantum matrix. "Got any better ideas?" Zyra's hand moved to a crystal embedded in her armor. "The storm, we can use it." "The storm that's already trying to kill us." "My people, we don't just adapt to environments, we commune with them." Zyra's voice strengthened slightly. "Set me down." Elena hesitated, then carefully lowered Zyra against an ice formation. The alien warrior pressed her palm against the crystal, and immediately the storm around them changed. The howling winds took on a different pitch, more focused, more directed. Elena's sensors went wild as the natural forces of Europa itself seemed to bend to Zyra's will. "That's impossible," Elena breathed. "No," Zyra's eyes gleamed. "This is what they want from us, our biosymbiotic technology. It doesn't just control nature, it becomes one with it." A massive wall of ice and wind rose behind them, cutting off their pursuers. But Elena could see the effort was draining what little strength Zyra had left. "We need to move, now." They pressed forward, but their respite was brief. A new sound cut through the storm, a high-pitched whine that made Elena's teeth ache. 3 figures materialized through the curtain of ice, their armor covered in shifting patterns that mimicked the storm itself. "Shade operatives," Zyra hissed. "The elite hunters." Elena's combat training took over. She activated her suit's offensive systems, deploying the experimental plasma shields. "How many?" "Too many," Zyra struggled to stand. "They won't stop. The secrets I carry. They would reshape the balance of power in this sector of space." The first Shade operative attacked with impossible speed, its form blurring as it moved. Elena's enhanced reflexes barely saved her as she ducked under a blade made of what looked like solid darkness. She countered with a burst from her plasma shields, the energy dispersing harmlessly against the operative's armor. "Your weapons are ineffective," the operative spoke, its voice a metallic hiss. "Surrender the Vesperin and your death will be quick." Elena smiled grimly. "Funny thing about humans, we don't respond well to threats." She activated her suit's last resort protocol, an experimental fusion overload sequence. "Zyra, whatever you're going to do with that crystal, do it now." The Vesperin warrior understood. As Elena's suit began to pulse with dangerous levels of energy, Zyra thrust her crystal into the ice beneath them. The storm responded with apocalyptic fury. Lightning made of ice split the sky, while the ground itself began to shake. The Shade operatives hesitated, their perfect formation breaking. That moment of uncertainty was all Elena needed. She grabbed Zyra and jumped, her suit's emergency thrusters carrying them over a suddenly appearing chasm in the ice. Behind them, the Shade operatives scrambled as the very surface of Europa seemed to turn against them. "The outpost," Elena shouted over the chaos. "It's just ahead." But as they approached the facility's coordinates, Elena's heart sank. Where the research outpost should have been standing, there was only a smoking crater in the ice. The message was clear, nowhere was safe. Zyra's voice was grim. "They're already inside your organization. The corruption runs deeper than we thought." Elena checked her remaining resources, power at 15%, weapons nearly depleted, and her most advanced systems burned out. But as she looked at the wounded alien warrior beside her, she knew she couldn't stop now. Whatever secrets Zyra carried, whatever conspiracy they had stumbled into, humanity's future might depend on uncovering the truth. "Then we go to ground," Elena decided. "I know some people who operate outside official channels, people who can help us understand what we're really dealing with." Zyra's 3 eyes studied her with newfound respect. "You would risk everything, for an alien you just met, for a truth that might shatter your world." Elena thought of the destroyed outpost, of the corruption that must have reached into the highest levels of Earth's government. "Sometimes the only way forward is through the fire," Besides, she managed a fierce grin, I've always wanted to save the world. In the distance, more hunter ships appeared through the storm, but now they had a heading, a purpose. As Commander Elena Blackwood and Zyra of the Vesperan Dominion set out across Europa's treacherous surface, they carried with them not just secrets, but the potential for a new future, if they could survive long enough to uncover it. The underground bunker was a relic from Europa's early colonization days, forgotten by most, but not by Commander Elena Blackwood. She had discovered it during her first year of patrol and kept it as her personal contingency plan. Now, as she activated the ancient power systems, she realized she had been preparing for this moment without knowing it. Zyra moved through the space with fluid grace despite her injuries, her 3 eyes taking in every detail. The Vesperan warrior had stabilized thanks to the emergency treatments Elena had administered, but the gray tinge hadn't fully left her iridescent skin. Your technology is primitive, Zyra observed, touching a wall panel. Yet there is an elegance to its simplicity. Sometimes primitive is exactly what you need. Elena activated a scrambled communications array, especially when your enemy can hack anything more advanced. The array hummed to life, its ancient circuits connecting to a network of similarly outdated systems across the solar system. Elena input a series of codes, not military or official channels, but something else entirely. Calling in favors, Zyra asked. Something like that. There's a group of independent researchers, scientists, hackers, and former military who noticed things weren't adding up in the Europa Defense Force. They've been gathering evidence for years. The response came almost immediately, a series of encrypted coordinates and a single word. Confirmed. Elena smiled grimly. Now we know where to go, but first you need to tell me exactly what we're dealing with. What's in that crystal of yours that has them so desperate? Zyra was silent for a long moment, her eyes swirling with complex emotions. Finally, she reached into her armor and withdrew the crystal. In the bunker's dim light, it pulsed with an inner fire, patterns shifting beneath its surface like living things. This is more than technology, she began. It's the key to understanding how life itself can be woven into the fabric of reality. My people discovered that consciousness, when properly attuned, can interface directly with the fundamental forces of nature. Like how you controlled the storm, Elena recalled. That was a fraction of its potential. Imagine being able to terraform planets in days instead of centuries, to heal entire ecosystems destroyed by pollution, to travel between stars by becoming one with space itself. Elena whistled low. No wonder they want it so badly. But it requires more than just possession of the crystals. It requires understanding, harmony, a deep connection with the natural world. Zyra's voice hardened. The harvesters and their allies don't want to understand it. They want to weaponize it to tear apart the very essence of my people and rebuild it as an instrument of war. A sudden tremor shook the bunker. Elena's sensors showed multiple vessels landing on the surface above. The hunters had found them. How, Elena demanded. The bunker's shielded. Zyra's expression was grim. They're not tracking us, they're tracking this. She held up her arm, revealing a pattern of light beneath her skin that pulsed in sync with distant explosions. The crystal resonates with others of its kind. They've brought more, and they're using them to sweep the area. Elena quickly gathered her remaining weapons. Then we move. Now, my contacts sent coordinates to an old mining facility on Mars, if we can get to my backup shuttle. The ceiling cracked as something massive began drilling through the ice above. Zyra pressed the crystal into Elena's hands. Take it. You've proven yourself worthy of its secrets. What about you? I'll hold them off. My body is already bonded with enough of the crystal's essence to... Elena grabbed Zyra's arm. No, we've come too far together. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Something changed in Zyra's 3 eyes, surprise, respect, and perhaps something more. She nodded slowly. Together then, but we'll need a diversion. Elena's grin was fierce as she pulled out her last remaining plasma charge. How do you feel about bringing the whole place down on their heads? Crude, Zyra observed, yet effective. She placed her hand on the crystal Alina held, and immediately both human and Vesperan felt a surge of connection. The crystal's light spread between them, creating patterns that intertwined and merged. "What's happening?" Alina gasped. "The crystal responds to unity of purpose, to bonds forged in adversity." Zyra's voice held wonder. "It's accepting both of us." Above, the drilling intensified. But now they had a plan. As Alina set the charges and Zyra communed with the crystal, both warrior women prepared for what would become a legendary escape. The hunters thought they had trapped their prey, not realizing they had cornered something far more dangerous, a human and Vesperan working as one, with the power of nature itself at their command. The battle for Europa was about to begin, and its outcome would reshape the future of two species. The explosion rocked Europa's ice crust, sending shockwaves across the surface that registered on seismic monitors as far as the main colony. But Commander Alina Blackwood and Zyra were already moving, their bodies wrapped in a shimmering field of crystal energy that parted the storm around them like a blade through water. The crystal they shared pulsed with newfound power, responding to their combined will. Through it, Alina could feel the currents of the storm, the very heartbeat of Europa itself. It was intoxicating, terrifying, and somehow deeply right. "The shuttle," Alina gasped as they ran, 300 meters ahead. Shade operatives emerged from the ice like dark specters, their weapons charged. But they hesitated at the sight before them, human and Vesperan moving as one, surrounded by swirling patterns of crystal energy that mirrored the aurora above. "Impossible," one of the operatives hissed. "The crystal cannot bond with lesser species." Zyra's laugh was cold. "You understand so little." She raised her hand, and the storm responded, forming a wall of ice that blocked incoming fire. "Humanity's greatest strength is their ability to adapt, to embrace the unknown, something your masters fear." Alina's tactical display showed more hunter ships descending. Less talking, more running. They reached the shuttle just as the hunters launched their full assault. Energy beams carved through the ice, while dark matter bombs created localized singularities that threatened to tear reality apart. "They're getting desperate," Zyra observed as they sealed the shuttle's hatch. Alina's hands flew over the controls, bypassing safety protocols. "Can you blame them? We're about to expose everything." The shuttle's engines roared to life, but warning signals immediately flashed across the console. "They've locked us down with some kind of energy field." Zyra pressed the crystal against the shuttle's hull. "Then we change the rules." The crystal's energy spread through the vessel's systems, its patterns merging with the technology. Alina felt the connection through their shared bond, understanding flowing between them without words. Together, they reached out to the storm one final time. Lightning struck the shuttle, but instead of destroying it, the electricity was absorbed, transformed. The energy field holding them dissipated as the very forces it manipulated were turned against it. The shuttle shot upward, riding a column of focused storm energy that scattered the hunter ships like leaves in a hurricane. "That's impossible," Alina breathed, watching as Europa's atmosphere fell away beneath them. "You humans use that word too often," Zyra said with amusement. "Perhaps impossible simply means you haven't tried hard enough." But their escape had cost them. The crystal's light had dimmed, and Zyra's skin had taken on that dangerous gray tone again. The effort of manipulating so much energy had drained them both. "The coordinates," Alina said, setting their course for Mars. "My contacts say there's evidence there, proof of how deep this conspiracy goes." Zyra nodded weakly. "The harvesters didn't find us by accident. Someone in your government, someone with power, has been working with them, helping them identify and capture my people." As if to confirm her words, Alina's emergency communicator activated. The voice that came through belonged to Admiral Chen, her direct superior and mentor. "Commander Blackwood," the Admiral's tone was cold. "You've taken something that doesn't belong to you. Return the Vesperan and the crystal, and we can pretend this incident never happened." Alina's hands tightened on the controls. How long have you been working with them?" "You don't understand what's at stake." The Vesperan technology could give humanity an unassailable advantage. No more hiding in our solar system, no more bowing to alien demands. We could become the dominant force in the galaxy. At what cost? Elena demanded. By becoming the very monsters we once feared. By surviving, the Admiral's voice cracked with emotion. I've seen what's coming, Commander, the threats gathering at the edges of known space. We need this power. Zyra touched Elena's arm gently. Tell him what you've learned, what you felt through the crystal. Elena took a deep breath. You're wrong, Admiral. The crystal's power isn't about dominance. It's about harmony, about understanding our place in the universe. And if you try to force it, to twist it into a weapon... She looked at Zyra, saw the approval in those three alien eyes. You'll destroy everything that makes us human in the first place. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then you leave us no choice. All units, Commander Blackwood and the Vesperan, are to be terminated on sight. The crystal must be recovered at any cost. As the transmission cut off, Elena and Zyra watched multiple signatures appear on their radar, warships, moving to intercept them before they could reach Mars. Your own people will try to kill you now, Zyra said softly. Elena's smile was fierce. Then they better bring their best, because I've got something they don't. Oh, and what's that? A really angry alien warrior who can control the forces of nature and a cause worth dying for. She punched the shuttle into maximum acceleration. Now, let's go save the world. The crystal pulsed between them, its light strengthening as they flew toward Mars and their destiny, leaving Europa's storms behind, but heading straight into another kind of tempest, one that would determine the future of human-alien relations forever. The Martian mining facility loomed before them, a sprawling complex of twisted metal and ancient machinery half buried in red sand. But Elena and Zyra knew better. Hidden beneath those abandoned structures lay something far more valuable than ore, truth. Their shuttle, battered from evading both Earth Defense Force ships and harvester vessels, touched down behind a ridge of rust-colored rock. The crystal hummed between them, its energy diminished but not depleted. Your contact said the evidence would be in sublevel 3, Zyra said, her iridescent skin reflecting the pale Martian sunlight. But it won't be unguarded. Elena checked her last remaining weapon. The Admiral's people will be waiting, along with your harvesters. They're not my harvesters, Zyra corrected with a slight smile. But yes, this is where it ends one way or another. They moved through the facility's outer levels like shadows, their shared connection through the crystal allowing them to sense approaching dangers before they materialized. But as they descended deeper, the air grew thick with tension. The first attack came from above, shade operatives dropping from hidden compartments in the ceiling. Elena and Zyra moved as one, the crystal's power flowing between them. Where Elena's combat training met Zyra's natural abilities, something new emerged. They weren't just fighting together, they were fighting as a single entity. The lab ahead, Elena called out as they fought their way forward. That's where. She stopped short. Through reinforced windows, they saw rows of stasis pods. Inside each one floated a Vesperan, their bodies connected to machines that pulsed with stolen crystal energy. No, Zyra whispered, her three eyes wide with horror. They're trying to force the bond to extract our essence. Commander Blackwood, Admiral Chen's voice echoed through the chamber as he stepped from the shadows. I hoped you wouldn't find this place, that we could complete our work without you knowing the cost. Elena's voice shook with rage. The cost, you're torturing them. To save humanity, the Admiral gestured at the pods. Each successful extraction brings us closer to understanding their power, to replicating it. You cannot replicate what must be freely given, Zyra said, her voice carrying the weight of ages. The crystal responds to harmony, to balance. What you're doing here violates everything it represents. Pretty words, a new voice purred. A figure emerged, tall, elegant, clad in armor that seemed to drink in light. But words won't save humanity when the swarm arrives. Elena's blood ran cold. The swarm. A threat greater than you can imagine, the Admiral said. The harvesters warned us, showed us what's coming. Without this power, humanity will be extinguished. They lied, Zyra snarled. The harvesters created the swarm. They use it to frighten species into compliance, into accepting their protection while they steal what they want. The harvester commander laughed. Clever little Vesperin, but it changes nothing. The humans will help us break your species' power or they will die. Choose. Elena looked at the imprisoned Vesperins, at the admiral who had been her mentor, at Zyra who had become so much more than an ally. She thought of everything they'd learned about the crystal, about harmony and understanding. We already chose, Elena said quietly. She reached for Zyra's hand, felt the crystal's power surge between them. We choose a different path. The crystal erupted with light, but this time it was different. Through their bond, Elena and Zyra reached not for destruction, but for connection. The crystal's energy spread through the facility, touching each stasis pod, each imprisoned Vesperin. Stop them, the harvester commander screamed, but it was too late. The imprisoned Vesperins awakened, their own crystals resonating with Elena and Zyra's. The harmony they created shattered the machines attempting to extract their essence, turned the harvester's own technology against them. Impossible, the admiral breathed, watching as the harvester commander's armor crumbled, revealing the truth of what lay beneath not a superior being, but a parasite that fed on stolen power. Admiral, Elena said softly, help us end this, help us show humanity a better way. For a moment he hesitated, then slowly he reached for his communicator. This is Admiral Chen, transmitting evidence of harvester deception. All forces stand down. I repeat, stand down. As alarms blared and security forces rushed in, Elena felt Zyra's hand tighten in hers. The crystal pulsed between them, its light now steady and strong. What happens now? Elena asked. Zyra's three eyes held a universe of possibility. Now we build something new. Not human, not Vesperin, but a future where both our peoples learn from each other, where harmony defeats fear. Elena looked at the freed Vesperins, at the humans lowering their weapons, at the dawn of understanding breaking across their faces. Together. Together, Zyra agreed. After all, impossible is just another word for not trying hard enough. The crystal flared one final time, its light reaching up through the facility's levels, into the Martian sky, a beacon of hope and change. On this red planet beneath ancient mining machinery, humanity had taken its first true steps into a larger universe. Not through force or fear, but through understanding, through harmony, through the simple power of reaching out instead of striking out. Commander Elena Blackwood and Zyra of the Vesperin Dominion stood at the center of it all, their joined hands bridging worlds, their shared crystal lighting the way forward. The storm had passed, and in its wake, a new dawn was breaking.